The final fitting for my wedding dress should have been a moment of pure joy. The silk whispered against my skin as I stood on the pedestal, looking at the reflection of a bride I'd dreamed of being since I was a girl. My maid of honor, Rachel, sniffled dramatically in the corner. "Chloe, you look insane. Jake is going to lose his mind." I smiled, my heart fluttering with a happiness so complete it felt like a physical warmth in my chest. In 8 weeks, we'd be exchanging vows on a white sand beach in Maui, surrounded by 50 of our closest friends and family. It was a destination wedding, but it was also a destination for my soul, a celebration of finding my person after years of false starts. My phone buzzed on the plush chair where my clothes were folded. Rachel handed it to me, her smile fading as she saw the caller ID. "Mom, do you need to get that? It's probably about the flight details again," I said, swiping to answer. "Hey Mom, you're on speaker. Rachel's here. Wait till you see the dress." There was a silence on the other end, the kind that makes the air go thin. "Chloe," her voice was shaky, a sound I'd only heard a handful of times in my life, when Grandpa died, when Dad left. "Honey, I need to talk to you." The warmth in my chest turned to ice. "Mom, what's wrong? Are you okay?" Rachel's eyes went wide. She mouthed, "Do you want me to leave?" I shook my head, gripping the phone. "I just got back from Dr. Evans," my mom said, and I could hear her trying to steady her breath. It's breast cancer, sweetheart." The word hit me like a sucker punch to the stomach. The beautiful bride in the mirror blurred. "Oh my God, Mom." "It's early," she rushed to say, her voice gaining a thread of strength. "Stage 1, Dr. Evans says the prognosis is excellent, it's very treatable, but I'm going to need surgery, soon. And then probably some radiation. The next few months are going to be a lot." My mind was a whirlwind of fear, love, and a sudden, terrifying logistics. The next few months, that was the wedding, that was Maui. "Okay," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Okay, we'll figure it out. I'll come over tonight. We'll talk about everything." "All right, darling," she said, sounding exhausted. "I love you." "I love you too, Mom." I hung up. The luxurious bridal salon felt like a cage. Rachel was by my side in an instant, her hand on my arm. "Chloe, breathe. What did she say? Is it?" "Breast cancer. Stage 1. Treatable." I repeated the words like a mantra, clinging to the treatable. "Thank God," Rachel breathed, hugging me. Then she pulled back, her practical, planner's mind clicking into gear. "Okay, so surgery recovery. We'll need to look at dates. Maybe we push the wedding back, just a few months until she's through the worst of it." Push it back. The words made my vision swim with tears of a different kind. I thought of the deposits, non-refundable, that Jake and I had scraped together for 2 years. I thought of the guests who had booked their flights and hotels. But more than that, I thought of the look on my mom's face when we'd told her the plan over a year ago. She hadn't been thrilled. "So far away, Chloe," she'd sighed. "And so expensive for everyone. Wouldn't a lovely local garden be just as beautiful?" She had wanted a traditional church wedding, with her friends from the bridge club and a reception at the country club where I'd had my sweet 16. This diagnosis, I realized with a cold trickle of guilt, might be her perfect, unassailable reason to get exactly what she'd always wanted. "I need to talk to Jake," I said, my voice hollow. "And I need to talk to my mom." That night, sitting across from her at her cozy kitchen table, the table where I'd done my homework, her news felt more real. She looked small. We talked about treatment plans, surgeons, schedules. She was scared, and I held her hand, my heart aching. Then she squeezed my fingers. "There is a silver lining in all this, you know," she said, offering a frail smile. "What's that, Mom?" "Well, it gives us the perfect reason to bring your wedding back home, where it should be, where I can be part of it without all this travel stress. We can cancel Maui and have a beautiful ceremony here. I already spoke to Pastor James, and he has some Saturdays open in the fall." She continued, outlining a local wedding I'd never wanted. The cold trickle of guilt became a flood. This wasn't just about her health, it was about control. The diagnosis, while real and scary, was also a lever, and she was pulling it with all her strength. I looked at her hopeful, frightened face, and I knew the battle lines had been drawn in the most terrible way imaginable. I couldn't fight my sick mother, but the thought of giving up my dream, the dream I'd built with Jake, felt like a betrayal of myself. I left her house that night with a silent scream lodged in my throat. The destination wasn't just Maui anymore. It was a choice between being a dutiful daughter and being my own person. And no matter which I chose, someone I loved was going to be devastated. The drive home from my mom's house was a blur of streetlights and conflicting emotions. Jake was waiting for me in our living room, 2 mugs of tea steaming on the coffee table. He took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug without a word. I sank into him, the solid warmth of his chest the only stable thing in my spinning world. When I finally told him everything, the diagnosis, the prognosis, And then, my voice barely a whisper, my mom's suggestion to cancel Maui and have a local wedding. He went very still. He didn't speak right away, which I appreciated. Jake was a thinker, an architect who solved problems by carefully assessing the structure. Okay, he said finally, his hands resting on my shoulders. First and most important, your mom, we're here for her, whatever she needs. I can take time off, you can take time off, we'll drive her to appointments, make her meals, whatever. Tears of gratitude pricked my eyes. Thank you. Second, he continued, his brow furrowing. The wedding, Chloe, we've planned this for 18 months. We've put every extra dollar into it. Our friends and family have booked trips. This isn't just a party we can move to the VFW hall next weekend. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Her idea, it doesn't feel like it's just about her health. It feels like it's about her getting the wedding she always pictured. Hearing him say it out loud broke the dam of my own doubts. That's exactly what it feels like, I choked out. And it makes me feel like a monster for even thinking it. She has cancer, Jake. She has a treatable cancer, he said gently but firmly. We're not talking about a terminal diagnosis. We're talking about a tough few months of treatment. We can work around that. We can adjust the schedule. We can fly her out first class, hire a nurse to travel with her if we have to. But canceling entirely, giving up what we want because she's using this to get her way. He shook his head. That sets a precedent for our entire marriage, that her emergencies, real or perceived, get to veto our lives. His words were a lifeline. He saw the manipulation tangled up in the genuine crisis. He wasn't asking me to abandon my mom. He was asking me to hold on to us. She's going to hate me, I whispered, the fear icy in my veins. She might be upset, he corrected. But if she loves you, she'll come around. This is your wedding, not hers. We spent the next week in a state of stressful limbo. I was at my mom's apartment almost daily, helping organize her medical binders, sitting with her, watching old movies. The subject of the wedding was a landmine we both tiptoed around. She'd make passive comments. Oh, look at this beautiful lace gown on this show. You know, Mrs. Henderson's daughter got married at the Stonebrook Manor, and it was just exquisite. I'd just nod, changing the subject to her anti-nausea medication schedule. The explosion happened at a family dinner she insisted on hosting, saying she needed normalcy. My Aunt Linda and Uncle Bill were there. Over pot roast, my mom, bolstered by the audience, laid her cards on the table. So we've been thinking, she announced, patting my hand. With everything going on, Chloe and Jake have decided to be sensible and move the wedding here. It's such a relief. Maui was always a bit much, wasn't it, Linda? Aunt Linda nodded sympathetically. Oh, absolutely. This is so much better. You need your family close now, Susan. All eyes turned to me. My mom's were shining with triumphant relief. I felt Jake's foot press gently against mine under the table. I took a deep breath. Actually, Mom, I said, my voice clear and steady, surprising me. We're not canceling Maui. We've looked at all the options. Your surgery is next month, and the wedding isn't for another 7 weeks after that. Dr. Evans said you'd likely be through the worst of the initial recovery by then. We want to make it work for you to come. We'll book you a direct first-class flight. We'll get you a gorgeous, accessible suite right by the ceremony site so you can rest whenever you need. We can even hire a travel nurse to accompany you if you're not feeling up to it alone. The silence around the table was absolute. My mom's smile froze, then shattered. Her face crumpled, not into sadness but into raw betrayal. You're still going through with it? Her voice trembled with anger. After everything I'm facing, you're going to force me to traipse across an ocean while I'm sick? Or are you saying you'd get married without your own mother? We don't want to get married without you, I pleaded. That's why we're trying to make it easier for you to be there. This is important to us, Mom. What's important is family, she cried, her composure breaking. Family shows up for each other in a crisis. They don't run off to a beach. I needed you to put me first for once, and you're choosing a vacation. It was the ugliest thing she could have said, reducing my wedding to a selfish vacation. I saw Aunt Linda and Uncle Bill look down at their plates, embarrassed. Jake's hand found mine and squeezed tight, a silent anchor. It's not a vacation, Mom. It's our wedding. And we are putting you first by supporting your treatment every step of the way. But our wedding day is about us. We're not canceling it. She pushed back from the table, tears now streaming down her face. Well then, Chloe, I guess you'll have your beautiful beach. I hope the sand is worth it. She fled to her bedroom. The dinner was over. The war had begun. As we drove home in heavy silence, I replayed her words. I needed you to put me first for once. It hit me then. This wasn't just about the wedding. This was a test. And by refusing to cancel, I had just failed it. The guilt was a weight threatening to crush me. But beneath it, for the first time, was a flicker of something else. The unshakable resolve of a woman defending the life she was choosing to build. The fallout was immediate and icy. My mom didn't answer my calls. My texts, filled with updates about her treatment schedule I'd coordinated with Dr. Evans's office, were met with radio silence. It was a punishing, passive-aggressive void. Aunt Linda called, her voice laden with disappointed sympathy. "She's just heartbroken, Chloe, and scared. She feels like you're abandoning her in her hour of need." The guilt was a constant, gnawing companion. Jake and I moved forward with the wedding plans mechanically. We confirmed vendors, sent out finalized itineraries to guests. Every check written, every email sent felt like a betrayal carved into a ledger. I'd see a beautiful Hawaiian sunset picture on our photographer's blog, and my stomach would clench with a mix of longing and dread. My mother's surgery was scheduled. I took the week off work. The morning of, I sat in the waiting room, Jake by my side. Aunt Linda was there too, offering me a tight, judgmental smile. When the surgeon came out to tell us everything had gone perfectly, that they'd gotten clear margins and her prognosis was even better than expected, I collapsed into relieved sobs. It was the best news possible. I was allowed to see her in recovery. She was pale, groggy from anesthesia, wires and tubes monitoring her. My heart broke all over again. This was my mom, vulnerable and hurt. I gently took her hand. Her eyes fluttered open. They focused on me, and for a second the old softness was there. Then she remembered. Her expression shuddered. She pulled her hand away, turning her head toward the wall. "Mom," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I'm tired," she slurred, closing her eyes. I was dismissed. The nurse, sensing the tension, gently asked me to step out. I walked back to the waiting room, feeling like I'd been slapped. Jake wrapped an arm around me. "She's on heavy drugs, Chloe. She's not herself." But she was. The drugs had just stripped away the pretense. The hurt was real and raw. The following week, I visited her apartment daily to help. I stocked her fridge, changed her bandages, and picked up her prescriptions. We spoke only in necessities. "Your pain meds are on the counter." The nurse called. "She's coming at 2. It was a clinical, heartbreaking routine. The topic of the wedding was a locked door between us. Until one afternoon, as I was folding her laundry, she was on the phone with one of her bridge club friends. I couldn't help but overhear. "Oh, thank you, Martha, you're so sweet," she said in a pitiful, weak voice I'd never heard her use before. "No, I don't know what we're going to do. The wedding is still on, apparently. In Hawaii. Yes, while I'm like this. Chloe and Jake feel it's more important than being here with family. It's a choice they've made. I just have to accept it, I suppose." She listened, then gave a sad little laugh. "Well, I might not be up for the trip. It might just be too much, we'll see." I stood frozen, a towel clenched in my hands. She was playing the martyr. She was telling her friends she'd been cast aside, framing our decision as a cruel abandonment. The narrative was being written without me, casting me as the villain in her cancer story. That night, I broke down with Jake. "She's making me out to be a monster to everyone she knows. She's not even trying to make it work. She's decided to be a victim." "Then let her," Jake said, his own frustration finally showing. "We can't control her narrative, Chloe. We can only control our actions, and we have done nothing wrong. We've supported her medically. We've offered every accommodation. The only thing we haven't done is give her total control. That's the only thing she wants." He was right, but knowing that didn't make the social exile easier. Invitations to extended family gatherings dried up. Cousins I was close to became distant. I was being shunned, and my mother was the quiet, sympathetic conductor of it all. 4 weeks before the wedding, with my mother starting radiation but still refusing to discuss travel, Jake and I made a decision. We hired a reputable, medical-grade travel concierge service. They specialized in assisting patients. We booked her a first-class, direct flight with wheelchair service at every connection. We reserved a stunning, ground-floor oceanfront suite at our resort, a 5-minute golf cart ride from the ceremony site. We prepaid for a private nurse to be on call for her 24/7 for the entire 4-day trip. We prepared a binder with all the details, her medical history, contacts, and a gentle, daily itinerary. I brought it to her apartment. I placed the elegant binder on her coffee table. "It's all taken care of, Mom. Everything. You don't have to lift a finger. You just have to get on the plane. We want you there." "So much." She opened the binder, flipping through the pages with an unreadable expression. She looked at the pictures of the suite, the flight times, the photo of the kindly-faced nurse. Then she closed it. "It's a lovely fantasy, Chloe," she said, her voice flat. "But I live in the real world. I'm sick. I'll be in the middle of radiation. The fatigue is unbelievable. You clearly have no idea what this is like." "I'm trying to understand," I cried, my composure snapping. "I've been here every day, but you won't even consider it. You'd rather stay home and punish me than even try to be part of my day." Her eyes flashed with cold fire. "Punish you? Don't you dare. You made your choice. You chose a location over your mother's health. Now you get to live with the consequences. Have a beautiful wedding on your beach. Send me a postcard." It was her final answer. The door hadn't just been locked, it had been bricked over. I left the binder on the table and walked out. As I drove away, the initial shock gave way to a grim, clear-eyed resolve. The guilt didn't vanish, but it was joined by something stronger. A profound grief for the mother I wished I had, and a steely determination to walk down the aisle toward my future, even if it meant doing it without her by my side. The choice was no longer mine. She had made it for both of us. The final month was a surreal split screen. On one side, there was the vibrant, joyful chaos of final wedding preparations. Jake and I had last-minute video calls with our Hawaiian officiant, tasting menus, and final song selections. Our friends, aware of the family drama, rallied around us with fierce, protective love. Rachel and the bridesmaids planned a hilarious, low-key bachelorette weekend that was the perfect antidote to the tension. On Jake's side, his family enveloped me, his mother squeezing my hand and saying, "Family shows up. We're your family too now." It was a balm I desperately needed. The other side of the screen was a static gray image of my mother's living room. Our communication was strictly logistical and medical. Texts about radiation appointments. Confirmation that a grocery delivery had arrived. No warmth, no mention of the wedding. It was like planning a joyous invasion of a foreign country where someone I loved was a prisoner of war. The travel binder I'd left sat untouched on her coffee table, a monument to her refusal. I stopped asking. The grief morphed from a sharp, daily stab into a dull, permanent ache I carried in my ribs. I mourned the mother-daughter moments we wouldn't have. No helping me into my dress, no clasping the something borrowed around my neck, no tears during the first look. I had to make peace with walking myself down the aisle or having Jake's father do it. The day before our flight, as I was frantically packing, my phone rang. It was my Aunt Linda. My heart stupidly leapt. Maybe my mom had relented. Maybe she was sick and needed me, a last-ditch excuse to stop us. "Chloe," Aunt Linda's voice was strained, not unkind. "I'm calling because your mother asked me to. She wanted you to know that she's decided. She's not coming. The travel is too much, and she doesn't feel welcome." The finality of it, delivered through a messenger, was the cruelest cut. "She feels unwelcome," I repeated, my voice hollow. "After the first-class ticket, the nurse, the suite," Aunt Linda sighed. "You know how she is. She wanted you to choose her. You didn't. In her mind, that means you don't want her there." There was nothing left to say. "Thank you for telling me, Aunt Linda. Tell her I love her." I hung up and finished packing. The ache in my ribs intensified, but so did my resolve. This was her choice. I would not let it ruin mine. Maui was paradise. The air was sweet with plumeria, the ocean a breathtaking blue I'd only seen in pictures. The warmth was a physical embrace. As we checked into the resort, a part of me kept looking over my shoulder, a phantom limb expecting to see my mom's disapproving face. The rehearsal dinner was on the beach at sunset. As Jake's father gave a heartfelt toast about love and new beginnings, I scanned the faces of our loved ones, laughing and glowing in the torchlight. My mother's absence was a tangible empty chair, but surrounded by so much genuine love, the emptiness began to feel less like a void and more like a space I had survived leaving behind. The wedding morning dawned clear and perfect. In a gorgeous villa, my bridesmaids fussed over me. Rachel clasped a simple, elegant necklace around my throat, my something borrowed. "From me to you," she whispered. "No strings attached." I cried then, but they were cathartic tears, washing away the last of the bitter resentment. I had chosen to walk alone. As the first notes of our processional began, I stood at the top of the sandy aisle under a canopy of palms. I saw Jake waiting for me, his eyes already shining, and my heart settled into a perfect, calm rhythm. I took a deep breath of the salt-tinged air and walked. Each step on the warm sand felt solid, sure. I wasn't being given away. I was arriving, on my own terms, to the man and the life I had chosen. The ceremony was a blur of profound happiness. We said our vows as the Pacific breeze carried our promises away. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, Jake kissed me, and the cheers of our friends and his family were a wave of pure, undiluted joy. We took pictures, we laughed, we danced under the stars. It was, in every way, the wedding of our dreams. We returned home a week later, sun-kissed and married. The real world waited, and with it, my mother. I gave her a week to settle, then went to her apartment, my wedding album tucked under my arm. She looked older, tired from the radiation, but healthy. The apartment was silent. She didn't ask about the trip. I placed the album on the table between us. "I brought you this," I said quietly. "I wanted you to see your daughter get married." She stared at the cover but didn't open it. A long minute passed. "Was it beautiful?" she finally asked, her voice rough. "It was perfect," I said, no spite, just truth. She opened the album then. Slowly, she turned the pages. She saw me in my dress, alone but radiant at the top of the aisle. She saw Jake's face as I walked toward him. She saw us laughing, dancing, surrounded by people who loved us. On the last page was a picture of just Jake and me, foreheads touching, with a simple caption, "Chosen every day." A tear fell from her eye and landed on the protective plastic. She didn't wipe it away. "I thought you were choosing a place over me," she whispered, not looking up. "I was choosing us," I said. "My new family, and I was hoping my old family would choose to be a part of it. The invitation never expired, Mom." She closed the album and looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in months. The wall in her eyes was still there, but I saw a crack. A glimmer of regret, of dawning understanding that her ultimatum had cost her more than it had cost me. "You look happy," she conceded, the words seeming to pain her. "I am." Another long silence. Then a tiny, almost imperceptible shift. The nurse you hired. She called to check on me while you were gone. It was kind." It was an olive branch, brittle and small. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a celebration. But it was an acknowledgement of a line I had drawn and defended. The war was over. The peace would be long and fragile, built on new, more honest boundaries. "I'm glad," I said simply. I stood up, leaning down to kiss her cheek. "I love you, Mom." "I love you too," she said, the habit of the words returning, though their meaning had changed forever. I left the album with her. Walking to my car, to my husband, to the home we were building together, I felt the dull ache in my ribs finally begin to ease. I had refused to cancel my wedding. In doing so, I hadn't just gotten married. I had grown up. I had learned that love sometimes means holding on tightly to what you know is right, even when it breaks the heart of someone you love. And sometimes, that is the only way both of you have a chance to heal. My destination wasn't just Maui. It was adulthood, and I had finally arrived.